Well, hey guys, happy Sunday night. It has been a few Sundays since we have got to be together, so I'm so happy to be back with you. Wes Tyler, the host of Refounding Fathers, and joined by our three awesome guests here. Christopher Souza, our liberal buddy. Good to see you again, man.
Good to see you too. I'm glad to be back on the show. I'm doing pretty well. School started last week, which
Right.
was really exciting. It was nice to see my students in person, all 26 of them in each class. We are still in masks in the classroom, which is
Right.
unfortunate, but hopefully that'll not be the case soon as more people get vaccinated and we get this Delta wave under control.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, that could be a whole topic in itself. We've got a lot to catch up on. You're right, because I just got my kids back in school as well, and kind of the same story. There's still some restrictions. Florida, I got to tell you, is crazy. I think I heard that Florida's number one in the country and probably bigger than the next like several behind it. Put together in terms of the number of cases, and especially that Delta variant. I mean, we've had numerous people that we're close to have come down with it, and nothing that they couldn't recover from at this point, but I know it's extremely serious. A lot of the hospitals are busy, but it is, yeah, much like you, I'm grateful to still at least have some sense of normal, closer to that than where we were a year ago, right? But that's awesome to hear that you're back teaching, so I know you love that. Kyle Walton, good to see you again, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Glad to be here. Glad to be here. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, yeah. Always holding up the libertarian perspective. I've got a lot of stuff for you. I think you're gonna enjoy our topics tonight. The libertarians always
Yeah,
get to kind of like criticize both sides and see, I told you so,
that's right.
and all that stuff. It's
That's right.
so when we get into some big government spending and the results of it, I'm gonna be curious to get your perspective. And then
Sure.
Megan, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show, Megan. As I always get to talk about having you kind of bolster the conservative side way better than I ever could is such a delight, and it takes the pressure off because now I just get to ask snarky questions and stuff. So I'm so glad to have you back. All right.
Thank you
So
for having me. Yeah, it's great to be back.
the reason we haven't done a show here in I don't know what's it been 2 or 3 weeks I think, um, is I have been spending some time up with my parents up in Virginia, and then a lot of folks know my brother John who does our Conservatism on Tap show. That's him along with my mom. Unfortunately, she's been diagnosed with a pretty serious form of cancer. It's pancreatic cancer, so she's going to be going through treatment. We were talking just before the show started. It is a good thing that at least she's being considered for treatment, but it was kind of a shock to our family. And so, immediately I kind of threw everything down and was like, okay, I got to get up there, fly up there and be with her and all that stuff. And I know you guys have been fantastic, just being understanding and kind with that. And I really appreciate your thoughts and prayers and all those things that she goes through it. So, our hope is that she gets treatment here starting in the next few weeks, and then gets to live out a nice long life. And we'll see how that treatment goes. So there may be a couple here hit or miss type episodes where I may not be up to full steam. But again, I really appreciate you guys. I really appreciate what y'all said, and a lot of folks on the show and close to me have been reaching out. So very thankful for y'all. We'll see. I'll kind of update you a little bit on her progress over the next several months as she fights this thing off. So I know a lot of people have dealt with it too. But I don't want it to hold up the rest of life that is going on. I know my mom gets to watch this show every once in a while, and I'm sure I'll send her this episode or whatever. She can take a look at it. She knows our flow. She knows me. She knows that I like to have fun. And I've been keeping up because you guys have been keeping the chat going with very sick memes. Kyle's always dropping them, and it's been fun to watch. I was looking at him in the airport and stuff as I was traveling back and forth, and was very glad to keep the conversation going. My favorite one, and I believe you dropped this, I could have been wrong because there were quite a few, is about this guy. Here we go. Yeah, who's finding
That's the
himself out
one.
of a job. Actually
That's
got
the
a chance to
one.
watch his press conference the other day and catch up on the news.
Yeah.
So I have plenty of thoughts on this. But, Chris, given that he's from the Democratic Party and you, sir, are a Democrat, I'll let you go first.
All right, no pressure. It's about time. He definitely deserved to go, not just for the allegations that are coming out from I think over a dozen women, but also because of his disastrous COVID response, which he really should have been held responsible for
Right.
months ago. not only for the policy decisions that he made at the beginning, but the cover up of these deaths, especially of elderly people, that happened in the state of New York because of those policy decisions. I think that that was kind of swept under the rug. Because after that, he kind of, towed the party line of masks and vaccinations and all of those kind of things that I think are good policies, but that doesn't really make up for the corruption and the cover up of the policies that did not work. I think it's good that the Democratic Party pretty much unanimously came out and said he needs to go. We should have done it earlier, so we only really get partial credit for doing that, but it is still better than nothing. And I think once Biden said, dude, you got to resign, it was really only a matter of time. There was about a week there where I was a little bit worried that he was just going to try and ride it out. But I'm really glad that did not happen. And hopefully we can get some more responsible and ethical leadership.
Yeah, that's a very humble response. I think the frustration from the conservative side or from the Republican side, generally speaking, is when COVID first hit. I mean, there was national broadcast press conferences, right? And he was being heralded as a future president. I mean, a statesman. This is the guy who is really doing it right. And then when things like this came out about nursing homes and how they were treating people and forcing them to, in all these situations where they were more likely to be exposed, that was a mess. And then, of course, when you hit this point of the sexual assault, it's like, wait a minute, this is the poster child of the Democratic Party? I don't think so, right? That was the frustration. And then, of course, him sticking around as long as he did. I don't know anybody that watches this show or that I communicate regularly that thought he should still have a job. So it is kind of a relief. What are your thoughts, Kyle? Megan, feel free to jump in on this.
Sure. Yeah, I think Chris hit a lot of really, really important points there. Whether it be from the pandemic response to the sexual assault allegations, this guy was trouble from jump. And I think we need to remember that he was paid $4 million to write a book on. I believe the title was "American Crisis: Leadership Lessons from the Pandemic."
That was it.
So he was paid $4 million because of his alleged great response to COVID, and heralded by Democrat leaders from Joe Biden to everyone else down the list. So it's an interesting thing like that has everyone turn on him. And interestingly enough, some networks were actually reporting on the nursing home crisis long time before anyone else. I'm not the biggest Fox News fan, but I'll give it to Fox News. Fox News was talking about last summer, at the height of these things, where elderly people were being killed in pretty big numbers in the nursing homes. So between that and the untenable position of having what was it, 12 plus accusers come forward, it was definitely time for him to go. I think my favorite moment in this whole stuff has been his defense, where he blamed his predilection not on his own decision, but on his ethnicity. He says, "I'm not a pervert. I'm just Italian." So God bless all the Italians out there who are going to have to put up with that for a while. But man, I can't imagine another group of people or another race or ethnicity or nationality saying, this grievous sin. It's not a sin. It's just who I am because of my ethnicity, man.
Right.
Wild.
Does that defense work for you, Megan? Just curious. This is a softball for you.
Because he's Italian? Oh, yeah, fine. Just let him go. As much as I would like to point my finger at Chris and say, ha ha, near, this kind of thing happens all too much. It happens on both sides. I would be a complete idiot if I said this is only on the Democratic side, because this kind of thing happens over and over everywhere.
Yeah.
We had the Me Too movement that suddenly crashed and burned, which I'm not quite sure why. It's about time these men are held accountable.
Can I interject?
And I don't care what side they're on.
Megan, but
if
Go ahead, Kyle.
Go. What?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I got a little bit of a lag here.
There's a delay.
I was still talking. I heard her still talking. So, you bring up the Me Too movement. It's interesting to me. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. What's interesting to me is that I can't remember her name. I should have looked it up. One of the founders of the Me Too movement, especially in the New York area, was the one who is helping Cuomo attack his accusers and discredit their accusations against him. One of the founders of the Me Too movement, which is there to believe all to protect women against sexual assault. She was the one who was helping Andrew Cuomo attack his accusers.
Right.
Unbelievably corrupt there. Just yeah.
Right. No, I think you guys have broken it down pretty well.
Melissa Milano, she doesn't count.
I think the biggest issue with this guy was having his brother as an anchor of CNN, and that was always just so bizarre,
Yeah.
right? Like, and of course he was defending his brother while at the same time pretending to be objective and all these other things, and that's really what just made this kind of sickening. Is when you have that entire family, that has access to all of this power, right? And then you see this type of thing. It really just confirms so many of the biases that people have about the government and the media and all these institutions actually collaborating and then of course doing horrible things. So I think we are all in agreement. Seeing some sense of justice in this is a really great thing that we all welcome. So that's awesome. Something that is equally controversial and probably going to grow because it impacts a whole lot of people is this next meme right here that I'll show you. And this is getting into what we're currently seeing in the news. If you follow international news at all, you follow what's going on in terms of the military and where we have people deployed, then you've probably been following what we're seeing in Afghanistan. And I'm waiting for this thing to load here so that we can take a look at it. But there's a meme that's coming up that essentially compares what's going on in Afghanistan to Vietnam. And that's really difficult for a lot of veterans like myself is, having been in places that now are completely controlled by the enemy, right? That's not something that I ever thought would happen during my lifetime. Is you see people with, these older folks that have these hats on that talk about the Vietnam War and things like that, and you're like, man, that was wild. What was that like? And now I go into a military bar and I feel like I'm about to be one of them. Put on my, Bagram hat, Afghanistan hat, OEF hat, and now I'm sitting here talking about conflicts that are in the past. So pretty wild. Looks like I'm having some technical difficulties bringing this up, and I don't know why. But while that's loading, what are your thoughts? What have you heard? And if you haven't, followed it closely, that's fine. But for all three of you, what are you seeing in the media, if anything, about this?
Just the headlines that are coming out about the Taliban taking control, re-implementing a lot of really horrible policies toward women, arresting journalists. It's really dark stuff and really depressing to think that, we've been there for so long. And the moment that we leave, it kind of falls apart. And I understand the frustration of people who are against, these, they call them forever wars. But at the same time, I don't know if I would describe what we were doing in Afghanistan over the last few years as necessarily a war. I feel like we were offering almost like a bulwark against the Taliban coming back in force, against the country falling to pieces for a cost that was not anywhere near what it was at the beginning of the Afghanistan war. And so while I am sympathetic to the idea that we were there for a long time, we didn't have a clearly defined goal, and it was time to leave. Yeah. At the same time, I kind of feel like if we were going to leave, we definitely needed to have more of a plan instead of just kind of abandoning these people to the worst, most tyrannical forces on earth.
Yeah, looks like I'm going to have trouble loading this next image up, but I would agree with a lot of that, Chris. I mean, that's the difficulty is that we spent 20 years in this place, right? We deployed thousands and thousands. At one point, there was over 100,000 between troops and contractors from the U.S. over there. And for this place to fall within a month is just absolutely jarring. And it leaves a hole in a lot of people's hearts is, asking that question, what were we doing? What was the mission and how could it have collapsed so quickly? So what are your thoughts on that, Kyle? Looks like there's a pretty significant delay. Why don't we go and do this? Why don't we pause?
Man, there's a lot that kind of goes through my head.
That map up because I really want to show it to you guys. Give me just a minute here. Let's reload the show and then we'll rebroadcast.